Hello, everybody, and welcome inside a Wednesday episode of YSN Live, the podcast that you love for your lunch break every day. It's Wednesday, February 5th, 2025, and you know what Wednesdays bring. It's Wrestling Wednesday with our good buddy, Gary Althiser. He's joining us. Gary, how we doing today, buddy?
Oh, doing pretty good. Glad to be here.
It is another week of Wrestling Wednesday. We're all the way in episode 7 now, and I guess the first thing we have to do is talk about what happened in the week that was. What's going on right now in the wrestling world?
There were some league tournaments, some league dual commitments that were done. There was a lot of those that went on. We were off. There weren't a lot of local tournaments that happened, but I think everybody was finishing up their league commitments, whether it be in the dual format, one-on-one, a dual tournament, or the league and conference tournaments that have to get done here towards the end of the season.
So when you talk about those leagues, who are the teams that are stepping up and getting victories in these conferences as we're shoring up the conference responsibilities, as you said?
Well, I know that the EOWL had their each division in the EOWL, all four of them, so they have to wrestle each other in a dual format. And I know that at least a couple of the divisions did a dual tournament where all the teams went, and they did it in one day. And Southern Local was the winner of the Division 4 portion of the EOWL. Those are the only ones that I saw, the only one that I got actual results for. And then this weekend, I know the MVAC is having their league tournament, and there are a bunch of others. And we have our Buck Bailey tournament coming up. So people are just finishing up their schedules right now. This week, especially, is where most teams will finish up their regular season schedule. Maybe they'll have a duel or two coming up. There won't be many tournaments at all after this Saturday.
Now, what do you do in these next couple weeks? I mean, it's almost like the calm before the storm. There may be a couple of things being stirred up, a couple of conference responsibilities, but all in all, you're really just getting ready for sectionals. What's it like as a wrestling room to be in this kind of calm before the storm mode where you're able to tighten up a few things and get into the lab and make sure you're as prepared as possible for sectionals?
Well, really resting up and getting healthy. I think that's what a lot of teams do during this time. A lot of teams, you've got bumps and bruises and you're banged up from the long regular season and the grind that it is. So having these last 2 weeks after this week off to get ready for sectionals, it's really important to a lot of teams. It's definitely something that has helped us. Um, there's no sense in putting your kids at risk, a week or a couple of days before the sectional tournament. When you've got time, you can use it. Go for it.
How in the world do you balance that idea of we want to rest up, we want to stay healthy, but we also have to keep our foot on the gas pedal and not be complacent and try to use all the time you have to get as prepared as possible for sectionals? How do you as a coach balance those two ideas?
Well, like you said, it is a balancing act, and I think that the kids know that sectionals is important, and it's something that they need to be mentally prepared for. But they have to be, in my opinion, they have to be rested up to be able to do that. They have to be fresh, and I don't see there being much of a problem with keeping, like you said, keeping your foot on the pedal. We've been doing that all season. It's a long grind, a 4 month long grind. So I don't see these last 2 weeks. Really, I guess if you had more than that off, maybe it could turn into a problem. But most of the time, at least with my team, we seem to wrestle better after some rest.
So I'm guessing wrestling isn't much of a sport where you have that whole debate like you do in other sports when you have a little bit of a bye where it's rust versus rest. Wrestling, you just take the rest, right? You want that ability to get healthy because it is such a grueling season.
Well, I mean, again, I hate to keep using this answer, but it just depends on the kid,
Hmm.
really, because it's not a team sport. You need the chemistry with a team, and baseball, softball, they thrive on constantly playing, learning each other. Same with basketball, any sport. Uh, if you're not in sync with your teammates, then you really could see the rust. Or with wrestling, this is an individual sport. It's on the kids. Some kids certainly do better the more that they wrestle, the better that they feel, the more comfortable they are on the mat. But like I said, it's such a grind that there's always bumps and bruises, and those getting healed up and being as fresh and close to 100% as possible, at least in my opinion, is more important.
We're getting closer and closer to postseason, and pretty soon we'll have our show where we break down the sectionals and we talk about the matchups that come up in the brackets and how we start these postseason runs. But before we get to that, what are some storylines that you're starting to see some wrestlers or some teams that are really primed to make a deep run? What are some things that you think we should be aware of before sectionals start as far as storylines going into postseason?
Well, they did just there was just the state dual regional tournaments, and the 8 winners from each division of the 3 divisions all wrestled this weekend in the state dual tournament. So there were some teams that were locally involved in that who did not make it through to the state tournament. So I think those teams, Salem was one of them they were up there. They weren't able to get through, but just the fact that they made it there is something, to be impressed with. But as far as teams go, I mean, it's going to be the same teams as usual: Beaver Local, Louisville, Austin Down Fitch. We know that they're having a great year. Hubbard. And again, I say this time and time again, but we're going to see guys come through here in the postseason that we maybe didn't have on our radar, who are going to peak at the right time, who are going to come through. And we're going to see some people that a lot thought would be, in the running for state qualification, placement, or championship, that maybe things don't work out, they get an injury, or the matches just don't go the way they are. It's really hard to predict, and I know that's a cop-out answer, but I still think the teams that we've been hearing from all year, looking at all year, that have had success all year, are going to do well. And for myself, I'm excited to see the surprises, because those are always the fun things about the sport, because there are kids that come out of nowhere, and some kids just peak at the right time. They get right mentally at the right time. They hit the ground running and really surprise you.
I know how hard it is to predict, but are there any names out there that maybe you've seen, or names that you think that have popped up in results of this season that you think maybe might be some of those sleepers that you're talking about? Some of those guys that maybe you don't expect to make deep tournament runs that do peak at the right time because you've seen them and you know they're capable of that. Anyone that fit that category in your mind?
Um, I mean, Johnny Bailey from Southern Local, he doesn't get a lot of press, but he's a really tough wrestler. He's definitely good enough to be on the podium. He was a state qualifier last year, and he really has, in the tournaments I've seen him wrestle in, he's wrestled great. Hasn't had a lot of matches where his opponents have matched him. He does have a couple of losses, but those are the really, really, really high level kids. I think he's somebody that we should keep our eyes on. He's a good wrestler. He's physical on the mat, and he was a state qualifier last year, but I don't think that the tournament went how he wanted. I know he wants to be on that podium, and I could definitely see him on that podium. So he's the first one that pops on my mind to keep an eye on, Johnny Bailey from Southern Local.
That's a good call, and it's someone that you see quite a bit in the EOAC. I'm sure that you see him quite a bit, and that's a good call. I think that they're on the girls' side. Then we have a couple of girls that obviously had very successful state runs last year, trying to take that next step. Ella Thomas, Paige Cowan from East Liverpool. What do you think it is about these wrestlers, coming off of a big run like that, or on the guys' side too? We have plenty of wrestlers that are coming off a good run, trying to get back there. What's that next step? What do you do when you're trying to take that next step and be even better in the state tournament?
Well, you just have to show that you want it. It's gut check time. It's you're not surprising anyone. You're not. You're not going to be taken for granted. Nobody's going to go out there and not expect your best, or everybody's going to expect you to be that high level wrestler that you've shown in the past. So really, in a lot of ways, it can get more difficult for kids like that because everybody knows who they are. They've got a target on their back, and all the kids that are close, to that level want to upset. They want to pull the upset on the mat against somebody who's already done it. They want to prove themselves. So you have to really mentally be in check for every match, because you've got people coming right at you. You've got people wanting to take you out. You can't have a bad day because everybody else has circled this match, circled this tournament, circled this date where they could meet you. So it could really get harder. So you really just have to stay mentally in the game. We've talked about this in the past with some of these guests that we've had on here, former state
Mhm.
champs who are coming back. And we talked to Keegan Sell last year, and he knew that he had to be on top of his game every single day because everybody in the state knew about him. And we had many other state placers and whatnot on. And it's all kind of been the same thing. They've got to bring it every single day. And that starts in the practice room. They've got to be good in the practice room. They've got to go hard all year long, and they've got to be ready.
The cliche is, the closer you get to the end, the the harder it is to lose, the more it hurts when you don't make it to that final goal. But the flip side of that, Gary, obviously, is the more it motivates you to get right back. How many times do we see teams at every level, get really close to a championship, and then the next year make that extra move or that extra play or that extra step to get there that time and win it that time around. So I think I'm expecting a lot of big things from a lot of the wrestlers that got really close last year, because nothing motivates you more than getting right there next to the championship, next to the trophy, and coming up just a little bit short for the next year. So I'm really excited to see, especially those wrestlers, take the next step and try to make that championship run in Columbus.
Yeah, hey, you're right. You get a taste of it. You want it, and I think this goes for all sports. You could also see a team get really close and not get where they want to be in the next year. Maybe they got their heads down, or
Mm,
what do they call that? That Super Bowl loss hangover.
yep.
We've seen that. We see that all the time in team sports. It could definitely happen, with an individual sport like wrestling, because there's definitely a team aspect to it. So, like you said, there's teams that get close. Usually, the fire is there. They're burned. It's
Mm,
burning, and they want to come out and do their best. And once you get to some success, once the kids start to see that they that they're for real, and that they are deserving of the things that they've done, and they start to believe in themselves more. That's when you see the step. When it's mentally uh, taking them to the next level, that's when you'll see the kids and the program really skyrocket, because a lot of times, let's be honest, kids can sometimes doubt themselves.
mm.
But when they have success and then they see the success, and they take a hold of it, believe it, grab onto it, and use it as a catapult, man, can they really go do some special things.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up that, of course, getting there doesn't guarantee that you're going to be there next year. You can't take it for granted when you get that close.
Right.
You use it as fire, but there, things happen. This is sports. You can't write your own story, and sometimes it just maybe a kid catches you early, and you didn't expect them to sneak up on you, and just like that, it's postseason. You lose and you're done. So,
Yep.
um, that can be even more heart wrenching than getting back there and falling short
Right.
again.
Right. Absolutely. There's no, getting close sometimes hurts a lot worse than
Yep.
just not getting there at all. So,
The other thing that happened over the week, Gary, is we're talking about all these conferences wrapping up, and these teams getting really ready for the tournament. We would be remiss to not also shout out that a lot of senior nights are happening. A lot of programs bidding adieu to a lot of the guys and girls that have kind of put in the work for 4 years for a program. Gary, you've been around the seniors all your life. You've coached seniors. You've been through senior nights. Um, what's it like in the wrestling community when seniors get to be recognized in the night and be able to kind of say thank you for all the 4 years that they've put into the program, building up the program's culture? What do seniors mean to you, and how do you kind of send off your seniors at Wellsville?
I think it's a little bit of a unique experience because with wrestling, you usually, from the elementary school up, everybody's practicing in the same room, at least at the small schools we are. So we see these kids from the time that they're, 4, 5, 6 years old on. We see them the last 12 years, some of them that have started that young, or even if we've seen them for 5, 6, 8 years, we've seen them so much that it almost, I know for me, when I get a kid like that that's graduating, it's almost, you think to yourself, man, how weird is it going to be next year when they're gone, when they're not here? So, it could be a little bit emotional, but it's also a celebration of some good things that have happened in the past. The kids have been on the team, they've been around for a lot of things, and hopefully you've made a positive impact on them that they'll look back at their time wrestling and their time with you as a coach and see it as something positive. So we try to send our kids off, as best we can. We recognize them at our winter sports senior night. That's at a boys' home basketball game where we'll have wrestling, bowling, cheerleading, and basketball recognized. And then we have our Buck Bailey tournament. And fortunately for us, it is at the end of the season where we can just get the spotlight on them and just the wrestlers. We'll recognize them there too before the finals. So we try to do it up for them, make them feel appreciated as much as we can, recognize them as much as we can.
Since you are the head coach of Wellsville, and I'll give you the opportunity. Why don't you just shout out your seniors and what they've meant to your program?
Yeah, so I have three seniors on the team. I have Riley Barney. He's a kid that he started wrestling at the Tiger Mite level when he was younger. He was very successful there, state qualifier a couple of times. Then he took some time off from the sport and he decided to come back as a sophomore, splitting time with wrestling and bowling. And then this year is the first year that we've had him as just a wrestler, and he's really come through. He was able to win the East Palestine tournament in his weight class. He's placed several other times this year. He's had a really great season. I also have Xavier Pooley. He was a first-time wrestler ever in his life last year as a junior. He's a senior now. He's made big strides, made really huge improvements on the wrestling team. He's a 4-year football and track guy. His dad actually was a state champion in track in a couple different events when he was in high school for Wellsville. He's a very nice kid. He's been a real pleasure to have on the team. And then I have Jake Bates. Anybody that's watched Wellsville wrestling the last 4 years, they know Jake because he is the kid that I've talked about a million times. He's never missed a single practice. He's never missed a single match. He's never missed a single wrestling commitment with us in his 4 years of wrestling. He started as a freshman. He's a senior now. He's there every single day. He's a nice kid. He's nice to have in the room. He's fun to have around. He's always got the kids laughing. So those three guys, they're a pleasure to have in the room. I'm definitely going to miss them next year. It's going to feel a little weird without them.
And then let's talk about that Buck Bailey tournament that you're going to use at the end of the season that you always have. And um, what's this year's look like? What teams are coming down, and how excited are you to be able to host a Buck Bailey tournament again?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for asking. It's going to be really, really nice tournament this year. We've got some really good teams coming in. We've got, sometimes we'll see bigger schools send their JV teams, but that's not happening this year. I think because teams have missed tournaments because of the freezing cold and because of the snow, we've been contacted by I don't know how many schools. We've had to cut it off. I believe we're at 17 now and still have a couple more to enter their lineups. But Minerva will be there. Sandy Valley will be there. Pennsylvania team, Central Valley will be there. Boardman will be there. Liberty will be there. Weir High from West Virginia will be there. We'll be there. East Palestine is coming. Latonia, Columbiana, Toronto. There's going to be a really, really nice turnout. We're going to have a lot of kids there, a lot of teams, a lot of matches coming up. We're getting prepared now for it. Plan to have a great coaches room, which every coach that's watching knows how important that is. We're going to have a good coaches room going there, but we're also going to have some good wrestling going on. I've been working with the tournament director the last 2 weeks to make sure that we are prepared 100% for everything that's happening. And we're hoping to have a great day of wrestling.
Have you gotten all the volunteers you need for Buck Bailey? Do we
I
have to
I
send out the
think
bat? Do we have to
so.
send out the bat signal here on YSN Live? Well,
I've got some volunteers. Hopefully, they all come on Saturday morning. I think I have enough. I've had a nice response from the community to help and to donate food to the coaches' room and to the concession stands. I appreciate everyone. I've had people from outside of the community wanting to donate things. People that I only know because of this show and they added me on Facebook have messaged me wanting to chip in. So I really appreciate the outreach from the wrestling community and the kindness that they've showed me and our team.
that's definitely going to be fun, Gary. And then Before we end that segment and talk about the Buck Bailey, can you talk about what it's honoring and Buck Bailey and how it kind of got started too? Because I think we do that every year, and I think it definitely deserves a shout out to maybe new listeners that don't know why you guys have this or what it's honoring.
So we had the Wellsville Invitational is what it was called. It's been around for 30 something years, as far as I know, maybe even longer than that. And then 10, 12 years ago or so, it was changed. The name was changed to the Buck Bailey Memorial Invitational. And that is in honor of a gentleman in town whose name was Buck Bailey. He had sons who wrestled, and he was a huge Wellsville wrestling supporter. He would follow the wrestling team wherever they went to wrestle, no matter how far we went, no matter how many hours we would have to drive. He would come with his family and cheer on the Wellsville kids, and that meant a whole lot, to a small team that you get parents to come, but outside of the home matches, at the away matches, outside of parents, you didn't really get a lot of people coming just to watch the team. But he and his family were faithfully there, and the coach, who was the head coach at the time, 10, 12, 14 years ago, whenever they changed the name, thought it was fitting to change the name to the Buck Bailey to honor him because he meant so much and his family means so much to the wrestling community. And his wife and kids to this day come to the Buck Bailey and they hand out the awards at the end of the tournament. They hand out each of the top four placers awards, as well as the MVP and the team trophies in honor of him.
Such an awesome weekend for wrestling and in that area, specifically Wellsville. And I like that we're bringing in some West Virginia teams, some PA teams
Mm-hmm.
too. It's going to be an awesome weekend for you, Gary, and I know you're excited for it, and we can't wait to recap it when we come back after Buck Bailey is over, because that's one of our really fun recaps that we get to have. We are not done with this episode though. We do have a guest. We had to pre-record it, but we do whatever it takes to highlight these wrestlers here on YSN. If you need to pre-record it, we'll pre-record it and we'll play it on the show. We have a junior and a captain from Austintown Fitch and their wrestling team that is having a very successful season. Evan Protopapa from Austintown Fitch. We had a chance to talk to him last night about his journey so far in his season and what it's like to be a captain as a junior, all that fun stuff. Me and Gary were there on the interview, so we're gonna play it for you here. We hope you enjoy it. Then we'll come back and we'll kind of recap the interview as well. Anthony Hartwig, Gary Althiser here with more Wrestling Wednesday, and every week we try to get a special guest. We got another one here for you today. Evan Paparotta from Austintown Fitch joining us, the junior standout for the Falcons. You can see him down below. Evan, thank you so much for coming on and
Yep.
joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Evan, every time we have a guest on here, I always start with the same question. Every good wrestler has good drilling partners or a good drilling partner. Who's
Yeah.
your go-to in the room, and what does he bring to your wrestling game?
Uh, my drilling partner is my good friend Joey Janis. He's a senior this year. He's been bouncing around between 138, 144. We like to take it hard in the room. You got to work hard to get results, and we have fun while we do it. We definitely work hard.
Yeah, when we look at this Austintown Fitch wrestling room, every time we get results, it's really deep. We see a lot of guys having success this year. What does that do for you to be able to look around and see a very deep program and to be able to see a lot of guys being able to go out and kind of push each other and have success together?
It's great. We got a good coaching staff. Bird does an amazing job teaching technique, making sure everybody's working hard. A lot of competition in the room around different weights. Everybody's got their good competition to wrestle, and yeah, it's a nice program.
Yeah, like Anthony said, this roster it looks really deep and it looks solid. From top to bottom, 106 all the way to heavyweight. It looks like you've got guys in there that you can count on every week to
Yeah.
score you team points, to do things. What do you think has done it for this team, this group here that you've got? Is it because you guys all got experience? Do you have good chemistry in the room? What is it that's brought you guys success?
One of the best things about our current lineup, most of us are underclassmen. We have 3 seniors, and the rest are juniors and below. So a lot of us know each other as well. We grew up together. We've known each other for a long time. We've all been in the program for a long time. Lots of experience in our lineup.
You said it. It's a kind of a young roster overall, three seniors, and then everyone else outside that, either juniors or younger. You're one of those juniors. You're an upperclassman. That's
Yeah.
usually when guys get asked to have a little bit more responsibility of leadership on their shoulders. Have
Mhm.
you been able to flex your leadership muscles a little bit this year with 2 years under your belt and the experience that you have as a junior?
Yeah, actually, I got voted team captain this year. So at the end of the
Awesome.
practices, we have four team captains. We all give a speech to the team.
What did it mean to you to be voted team captain? I mean, what did that mean to you to have the teammates respect you that in that kind of way?
It's pride. I take pride in what I do. I'm proud of my work. And I like to know that my team has my back.
All right, Evan. I'm looking at some of your results here, and you like to score points. There's a lot of these matches in here with a lot of points scored, and I counted at least nine techs on the year.
Yeah.
There's probably more than that. That's just what I could find, and I see even a couple 20-point matches where you're scoring over 20 points. You there? Did you guys cut out on
I
me
think
for a
you cut
second
off
there?
at the very end, Gary.
Sorry. I'm just. What are your go-to moves, Evan? That are helping you to score these points. That's a crazy amount of points.
I take it slow and neutral. I'll be honest. I go for a single leg. If I can't get that, I wrestle pretty defensively. But when I get on top, that's where I like to be. I like to throw the
Yeah.
right leg and run top.
We all know how physical wrestling is, but I also like to ask wrestlers about the mental part of the game. When you're in that circle, it's you and the other guy. There's no one there to help you anymore. What's it like to be in that mental state, and how do you get yourself mentally prepared for a match?
Um, I like to pace. I walk back, keep it in my head, tell myself I'm gonna win. I mean, you got to go into the good mentality. A lot of people beat themselves up before the match, go in with a losing mindset. It's all about how you go in mentally, and I like to keep a good mental attitude going into a match.
Have you cut much weight this year?
I'm not a big fan of cutting weight myself. I like to stay within like 2 or 3 pounds of my weight
Oh
class.
well. Okay, so then this might not apply to you. We ask this every week. You've had a hard week of keeping your weight down. You step on, you're a tenth under. The anxiety from making weights off. What's your go-to after weigh-ins meal? We've heard just about everything, so we're always looking for new foods to come into the show.
I love eating chicken and rice after weigh-ins.
Oh,
That's
okay,
my go-to.
I think that's new. I don't think we've had anyone say
that's
chicken
new.
and rice.
No, that's the healthiest choice we've heard yet. So that's very new.
When did that start? Did that like become a meal that you kind of gravitated towards, or was that always something that you did during the season?
So my whole life I've loved Japanese chicken and rice, and freshman year I didn't really have a meal. I would just go in, eat what I had. But last year I started to like focus on what I'm eating right, and chicken and rice has been my go-to source of carbs.
All joking aside, wrestlers go through a lot in this sport. The practices, it's a long season. It's a physically demanding sport. It's a mentally demanding sport. I'm sure to go through all that, you have to have something that drives you, some fire that's inside of you that keeps you motivated. What's that for you? What are some things that keep you motivated during the season?
It's got to be my coach, Coach Bird. He does a great job motivating us. He keeps me wanting to come every day, wanting to work harder to get better, and he motivates me to. I want to see results. I want to get to be the best I can and keep working at it.
So what are your goals then for the season? Do you have something that you got your eyes on?
My goal is state podium. State podium.
That's a great goal. On the way there, you're probably going to see some familiar faces along the way. Do you have any wrestlers that you really enjoy when they line up around line up next to you, or guys that you really get excited for when you're matched up against?
Uh, One main goal I've had this year is Caden Pluhar from Brecksville. We had a really close match at sectionals last year. He's ranked top 6, and I want to go prove a point, put my name out there.
Love it. He's got a rival. Gotta love it.
It,
Gotta love it when you have a rival.
rivalries bring out the best in you, that's for sure. So, do you do much off-season wrestling? Are you a summer
Yeah,
guy? Do you do freestyle?
I do freestyle and Greco with Green Machine. It's a home club. A lot of local teams, but the practices are in our home gym at Fitch.
Green Machine's been around for a while. That's a good way to get that work in the off season.
Yeah.
How much does that experience benefit you in the high school season? How much do you lean on your experience that you get in the summer when high school season rolls around?
Uh, it's a it's great. A lot of conditioning, 3-minute periods. Make a lot of new friends. A lot of local teams that I don't get to see. They're coming for Green Machine. They I get to work hard with them. Um, it also helps with pace. A lot of It's a different pace when you're wrestling freestyle, and the Greco definitely helps for upper body when people try to throw you. It's definitely just a different feel that you kind of need.
Do you guys have any team goals that you want to achieve here with the last month of the season?
Yeah. Last year we went undefeated as a team in regular season matches. We're working towards the same goal this year. We got Canfield tomorrow, and we're just gonna go out and give them what we can. We got a couple guys out, hurt, sick, and we just gotta show up and scrap.
I feel like that's going around everywhere, either
Yeah,
injuries or sickness.
yeah.
You got to grind through it, Evan.
Yep.
One of the things I want to ask about, because you're more than just a wrestler, you're a student athlete, and student comes first in that phrase for a reason. What's the classroom life like for you? What are some things you like to study, and classes that you've had at Fitz so far that you've excelled at?
Um, I'm a math guy. I'm a big fan of math classes. I'm currently taking AP pre-calculus. It's going pretty good. Um, I like my English teacher. I'm not so big of a fan of English class, but my English teacher this year, she's awesome. She has a fun class. I like the way she runs it.
What class do you think so far? It could be this year. It could have been maybe one of your first 2 years there. Do you think was the hardest? The one that really made you work the hardest to get the grades that you're getting?
Honors biology. That was I went in, wasn't really I'm never a big fan of homework, so kind of brushed it off, and it ended up being the only B I've gotten in high school so far because didn't do the homework.
AP pre-calc. So, are you the math guy on the team? Does everybody come to you for the math help?
Uh, Not really actually.
That being said, when we talk about this team and some more off the mat stuff that you guys do to bond, what are some ways that the team does bond off the mat when you're not wrestling?
A lot of times after matches, we like to go out to dinner together. Um, a lot of us hang out as well. We're friends outside of wrestling, and yeah, just going to dinner, hanging out.
What's the team's favorite post game meal?
We tend to go to a Japanese place out in Boardman or Denny's.
Uh,
That's like as American as you can get and as foreign as you can get in the two answers right there. I love it. Um,
that's yeah. I mean, Denny's, you got the home cooked stuff,
mhm.
but I bet you're going to hibachi, aren't you?
Yep, we are.
Yes, you have to go. Yeah, you're talking Japanese. You have to do that. So, do you play any other sports? And we talk about this all the time. How one sport helps another. Are you just focusing on wrestling?
Yeah, wrestling only.
If there's another sport out there that you kind of watch or that you've watched in the past that you think, man, I really think I might be able to throw my hat in the ring there if I wanted to. What are some of the sports that you think you might be good at if you had the opportunity to play them?
I used to play a lot of soccer.
Mhm.
I played on the travel team for Austin Town for a long time, but as soon as I got to high school, I dropped everything and it was only wrestling.
What was it about wrestling that made you want that to be your sole focus and want to put all your time into that sport?
It's just the people around me, the team. I love the team. I love the coaching staff. My mom's a big fan of it. A lot of outside influences. And it's a good sport, you know. I mean, it teaches you a lot. Definitely improves you for life. And I just wanted to be a part of that.
Gary, got one more?
Yeah, what got into you? What you got you into the sport? How did
So,
you start this journey?
in second grade, we they passed out the paper for the wrestling team. Took it home, and my dad said, "You're doing it." I was like, "All right," and that's it.
All right, sounds good. I love it. Evan, we end these profiles and these interviews with players the same way every time. Want to give you the chance to take the limelight off yourself for a little bit and shine on the people in your life that you think have really gotten you to where you are and you wouldn't be where you are without. So I want to give you the time to give out some thank yous and shout outs to people in your life that you think deserve it.
I just especially want to give a big thanks to my mom. She's a big supporter. She definitely cares for me. She helps me a lot, and I don't know where I'd be without her. I want to say thanks to my friend Caleb Bird at Salem. He's been a good partner for me. We drill when we can. We're good friends outside of wrestling. Joey Janis, I mean, he's a great partner. He's a captain on the team as well. We love drilling with him. Devin Phillips, another guy at Fitch. He's another captain, our 190. He puts in a lot of work. He's a good model for the team. I love it. And our coach, John Bird, he's amazing. Wouldn't be where I am without him. He definitely stepped up a lot to help me improve as a wrestler, as a person, and he keeps everyone in check.
All right, Evan, we want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today. We appreciate it, buddy. We wish you the best of luck the rest of the season. We hope you see you on that state podium,
Yeah,
like
thank
is
you.
one of your goals. And we'll talk to you real soon.
Yep, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Austin Town Fitch's Evan Protopapa joining us on this episode of Running Point, a captain, a junior. Gary, what were some of your biggest takeaways from that interview that we were able to conduct last night?
He seems like he has fun with the sport. That's the first thing that stood out to me. You know, he was smiling a lot during that interview. He was having a good time, and he also looks like a kind of kid that stays loose on the mat. He seems like he just knows what he's good at. He knows what he likes to do, and he just seems to enjoy what he's doing. He just enjoys the sport. So he probably wrestles really relaxed when he's out there, and you can tell by how many points he scores that he loves what he's doing.
Most of the wrestlers we talk to play some kind of multiple sport. They play something else, or they keep themselves busy with something else. But he is a wrestling specializer. He specializes in wrestling. He only plays wrestling. He's done that his entire high school career. He said he played soccer up until freshman year. But when you have a guy that is all about wrestling and that's his go-to sport and that's the one he works on, that well, what are kind of the benefits of that compared to? I know we talk a lot about the benefits of being a three-sport athlete. There are a ton of them, and I know coaches look for three-sport athletes or multiple sport athletes, and that's a big thing to do. But for the kids out there that just like one sport or because they're not really passionate about the other ones, what kind of benefits do those kids have when they can specialize in a sport and they can say, all I'm worried about is wrestling, and that's the only thing I want to get better at?
Well, for him, he said he was a big soccer guy and he spent a lot of time doing, another sport. So it's not like this is the only thing he's ever done. He just figured it out by the time he got in high school that wrestling is what he wanted to focus on. And hey, what kind of benefit does that get? You get more time to focus on one thing. He said he does the freestyle in the off season. In freestyle and Greco, they teach you, freestyle. You learn how to be good on your feet, and you learn how to not get turned from bottom position. And with Greco, like he said, you're all upper body. You're learning throws. You're learning how to be strong in a neutral position. So he's getting the time to work on those things, to kind of fine tune his craft and to get better in positions that maybe he needs to work on, while other kids are playing other sports. So there's some benefit to that for sure. But I think the fact that he got to do other sports when he was younger and he got to kind of see what it's like to be involved in other sports, I think that probably benefited him a lot too, because he's got, it sounds like he's got his mind made up and he's happy with the decision that he's made. He won't go back and regret not doing something else because he did already do that.
And then I love seeing leaders that are ahead of their time a little bit. It feels like, a lot of the leaders take a little bit of time in high school to figure out how to be a leader, but he's been a leader on this team for a while. Now he's a junior. He's voted a captain, which means he's a non-senior captain. 4 captains, 3 of them are seniors. So you had to get one of those juniors to be one more, and he was the one they voted on. When you have a kid that just kind of has those leadership abilities that you don't have to teach as a coach, what kind of blessing is that to have natural born leaders? I mean, I know there are some kids that you kind of teach how to be a leader and they turn into great leaders themselves, but there are also those athletes that come around every now and then that just have that leadership gene in them and know how to lead a group of people. What's it like as a coach to have someone like that, like Evan, who just knows exactly how to lead, and everyone kind of understands that?
Oh, it's fantastic to have somebody like that on your team because no matter how good you are as a coach and no matter how good you are at reaching the kids, uh, they also are very heavily influenced by their peers, more so than they are by anybody else in the world. So having a kid like that who can come in, be a voice for the team, be a positive influence, be an example, and to be somebody that his team thinks so much of that they put him in that position, as a junior, where it sounds like seniors usually hold that. That's a great honor for him. And I know Coach Bird is probably happy to have a kid like that on the team.
All right, so here we go in the week ahead, Gary, and we already talked about the Buck Bailey. What is there anything else that we need to look at in the next 7 days before we come back that we need to keep our eyes on?
That MVAC tournament, and then the
Right.
Buckeye 8 is another one that's coming up. That's another league tournament that I know is coming up for sure. Those are the ones that I can think of pretty quickly off the top of my head. So those 3 tournaments there will be the ones that we'll be talking about next week.
We'll definitely keep a sharp eye out for all those results and be back next week to recap it. Gary, what a wonderful week it was. Great episode featuring Evan Protopapa from Austintown, Michigan. We thank him for his time. We thank everyone for tuning in to Wrestling Wednesday. We're going to take a break here on YSN Live. When we come back, we'll venture into recapping the night that happened last night in the basketball, because we had a bunch of really good scores come in from a night ago, and we'll also have Scotty Mincher come join the fray of the show in not too long either, as we always love talking to our boy Scotty on Wednesdays. So we'll take a break, be back on YSN Live, and it is brought to you by, this hour was brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.